Okay, looks like I'm live. Let me just adjust this bloody camera. Hang on. There we go. That's a little bit better. How is everybody? I've got 3 people here, so that's a start. I've got an atomically strong cup of coffee in my Code Black coffee mug. I've been up since 3 a.m. and that in itself is the reason why I've got the coffee. Yeah, checking in from sunny Portland, Oregon, says DB Cooper. Cool. We'll do a weather check. What's the weather like here? 13 degrees and cloudy. The sun hasn't risen yet. It's almost winter, which I don't like. And this is a kind of surprise live stream in the sense that it's not one that was scheduled, but I didn't have time to get another video done for this Monday. And the fallback position is always to do a live stream if that's the case, which indeed is what I've done. So anybody can everybody hear me? I've got 5 people at the moment. Let me just clean the glasses. There you go, naked face. Yeah. Surprise, says Deb. How is the weather down in Nipaluna? Yep, rainy and cool Connecticut, says for sale. Jay can hear me, so thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. Got a few things. Actually did get something kind of organized for this. Hi, Patrick. How you doing? Everybody seems to be able to hear and see me. Let me turn off my other television because it's not sucking up the internet that way. Sunshine in Spokane, Idaho. Cool, says Jay. Hi, Adam. Yeah. So wintry time here. The sky's just starting to get very slightly grayer. Very warm in the UK, says Adam. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard you guys have had an unseasonably warm bit. We're having trouble. Our big tree out the front, which is deciduous, it's supposed to drop leaves. It should have dropped leaves 4 weeks ago. It's still got a lot of leaves on it, and it's actually getting spring buds before it drops its leaves because it's been unseasonably warm for most of this month. So my tree's confused, and I'm not sure whether that affects its growth at all. Eventually, it will drop all the leaves, but at the moment, it can't decide whether it's spring or winter. And I suppose that's part of the climate chaos that we're dealing with. Got some movie stuff to talk about. I've actually got some recommendations. I've got 5 box sets to recommend, if you can find them. And I've got 5 or 6 movies that I dragged off the shelves that I wanted to recommend as well. Deb says, weather's chilly in Nipaluna, Hobart. Expecting lots of rain later. It's very dry in a lot of Tasmania. Okay, cool. What did I just drop? Okay, I know what I just dropped. It's okay. Very chaotic at the moment. Let's get the personal stuff out of the way first. First thing is, I've been depressed for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Part of it's seasonal affect disorder. I do get that. Part of it's just being depressed. There's a lot of family stuff going on. There's a lot of conditions that add to the depression. Plus, hang on, what's it on my phone? Plus, I've got complex PTSD. I do have complex PTSD, and that affects things. I've had it since the 1960s, to be honest with you. And I've got seasonal affect disorder. So I'm going to try to get more sunshine when there is sunshine at the moment and see if I can deal with that. But it has slowed my mojo when it comes to doing videos. I have actually missed a video in the last couple of weeks, and I'm not pleased about that because I like doing them. They're fun. They do give me a trickle of money, but things have been a little bit wobbly. And Sal's had health issues. We've got family with health issues. Little bits and pieces of stuff happening there. So if I'm not quite as I have been in the past, it'll pass. I'll get through it. I don't doubt that for a second, but it's just at the moment a little bit wobbly. And I know I'm not the only one. I know a lot of people experience this stuff. And probably the message I'd send is you're not alone. there are a lot of us here. There is a path through it. Get help if you need it. Do what you can do. So that's it. Hey, no, it's only me, Damien. Sally is sleeping. She's got a cold at the moment. We've checked it's not the spicy cough, but she's got a cold. So she's in bed at the moment. I'm flying solo on a wing and a prayer. And we'll get this thing happening. Adam says, sorry to hear that. What films do you watch to distract yourself from feeling down? I'm actually doing a video about that, Adam. I've done one in the past about comfort movies, but I've started making a new list. So I will actually underline that and put a pin in what you've asked me there. But I will do a video about comfort movies because I've expanded my comfort movies beyond the ones I talked about last time. So I will be doing a video about that, and I think it'll be fun. And one of the things with this channel too is listicles. When you have a list of 10 best or 10 favorite or 10 most groovy or 10 ugliest things, they do well on channels. People like getting listicles. And I've actually got a listicle book where I put all of my listicles. And I'm doing one about comfort films as a part of that. Deb says, this too shall pass, and yes, you're not alone. Yep. Zambi Adams says, I take meds for anxiety, depression. There's no magic wand. There isn't. It's just what works best for you. I mean, I haven't been medicated for it. I do have some very low dose Valium should I need them, but they're not something I take regularly. And my doctor says, just keep these aside in case you need them. But I don't medicate for my depression because it's usually situational. A lot of stuff will get on top of me and then I'll get depressed. So it's not the continual depression a lot of other people get. And I'm kind of lucky that way. But nonetheless, it is something I've got to deal with when I've got to deal with it. Jay says, I must go let my dog out in the yard. Hang in there, buddy. I have depression as well. Remember, all things pass. Thank you, Jay. And Forsyth says, never noticed any difference. Yeah, we can mask things sometimes, Forsyth. And that is a good thing in some ways because it's not thrown at other people, but it's also a bad thing in some ways. And I've been honest on the channel about this stuff. But it's I want to be more productive than I am is what I'm saying. I haven't done a travel vlog in 10 days because I haven't been out. I want to get one done this week. Don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to get a travel vlog for the other channel. I'm going to continue to do this channel. I'll get a Wednesday video out this week. I'll get a Science Fiction Saturday video out. We'll keep the thing rolling. I've got enough ideas to do that. It's just a matter of getting them done. So we'll kind of underline that and just say that, yes, that happens to a lot of people. And yes, it is important that we deal with it. And no, we shouldn't be ashamed of it. And yes, it's okay to talk about it. Let's see. What do we got? I can't read my own. I know what that is. Yep. Okay, cool. Hey, did you guys hear about Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, where they've got Lupita Nyong'o playing Helena Troy, the face that launched 1,000 ships? And Elon Musk has got the shits about it. He's got the shits on the fact that a beautiful woman of color is playing Helena Troy in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. He's gone totally bugfuck about it because he's a racist from South Africa. And I find that highly amusing because Lupita Nyong'o, beautiful actress, a lot of gravitas, a lot of grace, a lot of talent. And this dickhead, just because he's got more pennies than everybody else, thinks he's got the right to say it's a bad thing that she is playing Helena Troy. I want to see this movie. I like the style of Christopher Nolan's films. I just hope he gets the sound mix right this time. But I think it's a good choice, having Lupita Nyong'o playing Helena Troy, a mythical person who was the child of a swan and a woman. What are you going to do? Yeah, Deb says, I love that casting. Lupita Nyong'o is gorgeous. She is indeed. And Deb says, both Jeff and I are coming out the other side of a funk I've been knitting and that helps me. So you'll be pleased to know I've almost finished your alpaca merino beanie and about to start selling. Thank you, Deb. Appreciate that. This is the time of year where we need alpaca merino beanies, and I will wear it on the channel. Adam says, I wonder what Musk's favourite film is. Well, it's probably got to be Triumph of the Will, doesn't it? Which has just got a Kino Lorber release, which is very controversial. Triumph of the Will, I think it's a difficult movie to release in the modern era for the simple reason that all the wrong people are going to like it for all the wrong reasons. Yes, Leni Riefenstahl is a powerful didactic director. She was. But Triumph of the Will, I have a real problem with. In fact, it may not ever be allowed to be in Australia because Nazi symbols are banned here. If you do a Nazi salute here, you can get arrested. If you have swastikas and other Nazi symbols, like the SS symbols and things like that, you will get arrested here. So, yeah, Triumph of the Will is really a difficult one. Yes, they will contextualize it with extras, but I'm not sure it needs another release. Damien says, Helena Troy, an original legend, most beautiful woman in the world. It doesn't mention the color. It doesn't. And she's a mythical person, too. For Sale says, I bought Triumph of the Will on beta back in the day. You're one of the people that went the road not traveled and got Betamax, which I never did. I talked over with my friends before I bought my first VCR, and some very knowledgeable AV friends I knew. And it was like $700 to get a VHS player in those days. Crazy expensive when you consider the changes in the value of money these days. And I went to a friend of mine who's really knowledgeable, who bought and sold AV equipment for a living. And he said, Betamax is better, but get a VHS because it's the one that's going to win. And he was indeed right. He had both because he was in the industry. But I actually asked an expert and got the right answer. And then DVDs came along and Blu-rays and 4Ks. And I've only got about 5 VHS tapes left. Hi, Dick. Definitely surprised live stream. Just seen it pop up. Yeah, how you doing? How is the weather in Dover? So you went out and spent a lot of money at various things, Dick. So that's good. People should check out Dick's channels. He does all sorts of weird hauls and things like that. Always good. Damien had both VHS and Betamax for a while. Yeah, it's really weird because even when Blu-ray came along, there was that other HD format which got some releases, and there was a kind of World War II of format wars. So originally Betamax and VHS, and then HD and Blu-ray. And I've got one HD disc which won't play on anything I've got, which is Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, which I bought accidentally at an op shop. So I've got one example of that dead format in my collection. Hi, Emmy. Yeah, lots of YouTube complainers about inaccuracies in Nolan's Odyssey. It's getting tiresome. Yeah, but all publicity is good publicity before a movie comes out. And I don't think Chris Nolan's really worrying about the complainers. I'm going to go see the movie. I will probably buy it on 4K when it comes out because I do like Nolan's stuff. And it looks great. It's very stylized, and I'm good with that. Yeah, all the right people are saying all the wrong things, if you know what I mean. People are self-identifying as racist and idiots when it comes to criticizing this movie. And it just beds down that there are some very, very fucked up people who have a lot of money and try to punch downward at creative endeavors. Dick says, very hot. Me and Carol went out for another local Comic-Con. Cool. Zammy Adams says, I love VHS Beta. Fond memories of Friday nights at the video store. Absolutely. I am totally on board with that. That's the nice thing when I go to somewhere like Play or JB Hi-Fi. It does have a little of that serendipitous discovery buzz when you go into a place that's got a lot of DVDs and Blu-rays and 4Ks. Just that looking around till you find something you're not quite sure about, but you kind of want to get, and then you get it. I love that aspect of things, the shopping part of picking movies. Carol says, do you have a Laserdisc? I don't have a Laserdisc player, but I've got 2 movies on Laserdisc, and I did a video about this a long time ago. I was up in Bendigo, one of the regional cities here in Victoria, and I found a Laserdisc of the Jolson Story with Larry Parks and Jolson Sings Again. Big double movie Laserdisc. It's got blackface in it, which makes it kind of racist. In fact, it does make it racist. And I bought it for $5 because either I get it and I archive it, or some racist buys it and they keep it. So I did get one Laserdisc to take it off the market so that racists couldn't buy it. Deb says, I look forward to any new Nolan film. Yeah. And Dig says, thanks for the share. I definitely need to get my subscriber count up. Absolutely. If I can offer one bit of advice, Dick, make your intro a lot shorter, because people need the hook. And people, if an intro goes too long, more than about 5 or 6 seconds, it's going to lose your views. That's just a tip. You can ignore that if you want to, but that's what I found anyway. Adam says, have I seen the Snips channel rental shop in Liverpool, about 23,000 titles? No, I haven't, but Play here in Melbourne is really good. And when I get rid of some things that I get as review copies, particularly collector's editions, I don't necessarily have the room to keep. I will buy things at Play, and they have things that I want. In fact, they have about, as you said, there are 23,000 things I want. But that, again, is part of me refining my collection. Because when I used to go to, I'm talking about a year or two ago, not very long ago at all, I would go and pick up almost anything that was reasonably watchable. And I ended up with a lot of stuff in the collection that wasn't totally to my taste, but I just got it because it was available. It was only $1 or $2. And that silts up the shelf space that you've got. So this year, and in the last couple of months, I've started refining the collection. And I'll look through things and I'll put them in the box to either sell or give to charity shops, because I am refining that collection. I want it to be a reflection of me, not a reflection of my collecting habit, if you know what I mean by the difference there. Taker 68 says, any idea what your very first home video purchase was? I know. I remember. A company called CEL was one of the first companies in Australia to do sell-through VHS tapes. And I picked up the musical Kismet with Howard Keel and Dolores Gray. Fantastic musical that I really liked. I already had the soundtrack album. And so I picked up Kismet as my first ever purchase because it was available. I think it was about 25 to $30 at the time, which was a lot of money then, because things are worth more now. And my first DVD purchase I got secondhand was The Talented Mr. Ripley, and I've still got that one. Damien says, I have a real film of War Games directed by Watkins, but I don't have a projector. The library I worked for many years ago was going to throw it out. That's a pity. Dog's Dad, yeah, thanks for bringing it forward. It's Alive trilogy. I've forgotten how batshit disturbing it was. It is. The It's Alive trilogy is great. And Sal's going to watch it as well. She hasn't watched it. And so I gave her the box set and said, watch this because she put a comment on the video saying she wants to watch the It's Alive trilogy. It's definitely her kind of horror stuff. But yeah, It's Alive. I had a lot of fun rewatching that. And that Spanish Blu-ray edition I got is pretty good. The quality is great. It's not like pressed from an original negative, but it's a really good quality print of each of the three films. And I'm very happy with it. Forsyth says, Patricia Highsmith used to write for comic books. Cool. But yeah, talented Mr. Ripley are coming. Great cast. Matt Damon, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah, it does have Gwyneth Paltrow, but the guys are there. Dog's Dad says it makes you think about family planning. And Ralph says, I bought my first DVD before I had a player. It was Army of Darkness. Hail to the King, baby. Yeah, I actually bought Talented Mr. Ripley before I had a DVD player. And I knew the formats were changing. I had a shit ton of VHS at the time. And I thought, good quality movie. I got it for like $5 somewhere. And then I started to see in places like JB Hi-Fi, there were $5 bins of DVDs going, and the collection started from there. Deb says, I haven't watched the third It's Alive, but I can't think why, because I love Karen Black. Yeah, Karen Black's great in it. Michael Moriarty's great in it. They play off each other nicely. I mean, two pros going head to head. And it ends on such a weird grace note, which I'm not going to spoil for you. But yeah, I love the world building consistent through the three movies because, of course, the same writer-director made all three. And that universe stays consistent and stays weird in the same tone all through the three movies. Adam says, first rentals, The Elephant Man and Zombie Flesh Eaters. What a double bill. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, you go from David Lynch to Zombie Flesh Eaters. Damien said, my first CL title was 1941 version of Dr. Jekyll. First DVD was Jackie Chan, Who Am I? First Blu-ray was an animated series of Big Nights with the voice of Brian Blessed. Yeah, I don't remember what my first Blu-rays were, but I know I bought them. I never thought I'd have a collection like I've got now, to be honest with you, because I want to put this in some kind of concrete way. I may do a long vlog about it. I may write something about it. But as many of us were, we were born in a movie desert. The only ways you could watch a movie were if they turned up on TV or if they turned up in a cinema. Those were your choices, and you had no control over them at all, apart from giving them your attention. You couldn't watch them when you wanted to watch them. If you missed them, you didn't see them again for 3 or 5 years. It was a real desert of cinema before the ability to own or even rent movies existed. And that's such an alien concept to people now who have got ubiquitous consumption. Realistically, between torrents and streaming services, you can find almost anything. And that richness and that abundance of opportunity is something that I often contrast with the days when I wasn't able to have that. Adam says, first DVD, Pitch Black. First Blu-ray was Click with Sandler. It was free with the PS3. I remember that. I didn't buy PS3, but I remember seeing him for sale with the PS3s. I mean, it's like the PS5s. Sal's got a PS5 that I bought her when I had a bit of a windfall. And that's her 4K player. I've got a dedicated 4K player for my stuff, but her 4K player is her PS5. David says, so true. When recording DVD came in, I recorded old films. Yeah, I did that on VHS as well. And you had that complex process. I had that complex process of setting the timer to record something off the TV while you're asleep. And then the TV channel will be behind on its programming. And you'd either miss the start of a movie or you miss the end of a movie. So you had to leave a window that was pretty wide in case there was a news broadcast or something like that that broke into the programming. And you also got all the ads as well. The struggle was real. Dog's dad says, anything on legit streaming platforms is worthwhile. I enjoyed The Boys. I finished watching The Boys, and that one really stuck the landing. The last episode really covered everything it needed to cover. I watched the Punisher One Last Kill, which was a 50-minute Punisher movie, which is basically the raid done with the Punisher. I liked Born Again. Daredevil Born Again is really good. As far as movies are concerned, I think movies that are designed for streaming, so like Netflix originals and the movies that are made for a specific platform, are always B pictures. And the only good stuff is the stuff that went to cinema and then turned up. What I did watch, and I'll bring up my letterbox just to remind myself. Give me a moment to let my computer do computer things. I'll bring up this year's letterbox and I'll tell you what I've watched on streaming that's good. So, I watched Ready or Not and Ready or Not 2, which are these two horror movies. This woman marries into a rich family, and on the night of the wedding, the family always plays a game because the family made its money on board games. And there's a mechanical box that spits out a card with the game that's to be played. And the game is Ready or Not, like hide and seek. And she's got to hide and not be found until dawn. What she doesn't know at the start is they're hunting her and they're going to kill her because they need to do this because they sold their soul to Satan and Satan demands a sacrifice. It's got Samara Weaving in it, playing the protagonist. And it's one of those horror movies that's funny as hell, but it's also gory as hell. A lot of fun. And the second one's fun too. And Catherine Newton plays her sister in the second one. And both of them are being hunted by this cabal of incredibly wealthy Satanists on this big estate. And they've got to survive somehow. It's a lot of fun. It's comedy horror. Blood and guts everywhere. Strong female protagonists who don't act like they're superhuman. They're fucking terrified all the way through it. And yet they prevail. So that's a recommendation, Ready or Not. Adam says, back in the 80s, recording off TV meant I watched certain films way too much. Yeah, I can see that. And Deb says, I grew up in rural South Australia and the local cinema was only open over summer. Local TV was so important, yeah. And Forsyth said, I missed taping the ending of Dead of Night because the TV station was running late. Pissed me off, yeah. Dead of Night particularly, with that circular plot structure. It's crucial that you watch the end of Dead of Night. Deb says that was in the 60s. D. Lee says, hi, late the buddy. I remember the VHS recording days. In the window, you had to have on either side. If I was watching the film while recording it, I became adept at pausing it to miss the ads. Yeah, I mean, there were really weird skills that you had to acquire. Stuff like knowing how to program your VCR and, buying here it was TV Week and TV Times. You'd buy the TV guide and you looked through it, particularly late at night, to see what was coming up. And you go, oh, shit, there's a Robert Mitchum film on at 3 a.m. I want to tape that. And you'd set up to tape that. And usually they were on the ABC, which doesn't have ads. Our national broadcaster doesn't have ads during movies, when it was doing movies. And so you could tape it successfully if you're watching the ABC. But if it was on a commercial network, you did have to leave that space either end. Carol says, home recording on VHS tape was a fine art and to get it to work. Yeah. And nowadays, the ABC has a streaming service called iView. And they've got movies on there which don't have ads in them. So we've got that. SBS, our other national broadcaster, under its charter does have ads, but it shows a lot of movies that you won't find elsewhere. Dick says, yep, remember sitting there and getting ready to hit the pause button to edit out the ads when recording a film off TV? Yeah, no, it distracts you from the movie too, because not only are you watching the movie and getting into the story, you got your finger poised to get rid of these bloody ads. So your attention is split in a way that doesn't make for the best movie watching experience. Carol says, been watching and listening to 80s films while working at home. All the stuff we had on tape off the TV, yeah. There are a lot of them. And for me, it seems weird. And this is a function of having had a lot of birthdays. You think of movies from the 80s and 90s as being recent films, whereas movies from the 80s are 40 years old now. But your head doesn't really register that. And that makes it kind of weird and funny. Dogstad said, I watched a little bit of For All Mankind. My thoughts on alternate history genres. For All Mankind's great. I've watched 2 seasons of it. And I like what it does. I think I don't mind alternate histories, but it's a meticulous art. To do an alternate history, well, you've got to really dive into the history. And even in fiction, writing, if you do an alternate history, you've got to know your bloody history well. You got to know what's a reasonable divergence from that history and what isn't. It is a very meticulous genre of science fiction film and TV. Dick says, you used to get a little flickering bar at the top right-hand corner, which will give you the heads up when the ads were due. Okay, cool. But yeah, pain in the ass, really. Carol says, my first shop brought video was an 80s cartoon, Transformers: The Search for Vector Sigma. Had to save up, so I remember it well. Yeah. I mean, I was fortunate I was working at the time. But the number of times where I'd spend too much and then run short of food and I'd have to eat rice and stuff for a while because I bought things. There were a few times like that. Yeah, Luna's around, but Luna, I've actually left the back door ajar so Jill and Luna can wander in and out. Luna does get lots of cuddles in winter. She's a very winter cuddly cat. In fact, the last 2 days I've had like 3 or 4 cuddles. I've been sitting at the desk doing stuff because there is preparation to these videos before I record. And suddenly I'll have a cat jump on my chest. And I've got to stop whatever I'm doing and spend 10 minutes cuddling with her while she either washes herself or falls asleep. But she's here and she's doing well. And Jill, our older cat, who's 15 now, is doing well because Luna keeps her young. Luna's 5 now. She's not a baby anymore. I keep forgetting that. Do you guys want a bit of show and tell? Because I've got a few things I want to show and tell. Let me know. By the way, Super Chats do get the fart gun. We do have the fart gun available. I should have mentioned that up front, but I'm not good at selling myself or even renting. Dick wants a show and tell. I want a couple more show and tell yeses before I show and tell. This is called engagement. Does anybody have favorite pens? Yep, Forsyth says show and tell. Want one more? And Adam says show and tell. So I've got, before I do, Sharpie S-Gel pens are fantastic. I'm trying out a couple of new pens I'm about to get. But I like a pen that runs smoothly. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll do not the box set show and tells now, but I'll do the other stuff and I'll do the box sets a bit later We've got 2 hours to fill, so here we go. This one's an Australian film shot on video, so it doesn't look meticulous the way shot on film does. It's from the 1990s, written and directed by John Hewitt and Richard Wollstonecraft. It's an Australian vampire film filmed here in Melbourne with a cast that's mostly people who are on community radio. Deb says, Jeff's off to work, so say hi to everyone. Says hi to everyone. Hi, Jeff. Bloodlust. This is Monster Pictures and Umbrella put this one out. No, sorry, Monster Pictures and Bounty. Bloodlust. It's got nudity and violence, and it was filmed mostly on the back streets of inner Melbourne. And Deb says, yes, I have favourite pens. There's a nice cover here too. And these stickers where it says banned in Queensland and weekly $2 are actually part of the cover art. Really gory, bloody movie. Lots of extras on it as well. The notorious Australian cult movie turns 21 years old when this came out. So it was from the 1990s. And it's got that early 1990s grunge thing where they filmed part of it in nightclubs and back alleys and weird little places. And on the disc it says, please rewind, which is hilarious on a DVD. I've forgotten there was a poster in here as well. There's a double-sided poster. There's one side. And there's the other. This is early in the days of double-sided posters. Come on, get down there. So this is like a pre-collector's edition. And I picked it up because I was listening to a lot of community radio when they were making this, particularly a station called 3RRR, which is one of the great community radio stations here in Australia. And they do programming about cult movies. This is before you could even podcast. There was Film Buff's Forecast on a Saturday morning. There was another show called Danger Lowbrow, which would do all the cult movies. Really, this is a moment when I was first moved to Melbourne and I was living in either St Kilda or Richmond at the time, and we were all into cult movies. We'd go down and rent the movies from the good DVD shops or the good video shops in St Kilda or Richmond. When I moved to the posh suburbs in Baldwin for a while, I was so frustrated because there were no good cult movie rental shops in posh suburbs. They were all doing Remains of the Day and shit like that. And so I'd have to go down to Richmond on the tram and travel like 10 kilometres on a tram to get to a decent rental shop. Patrick said, weirdly, I've recently gotten into fountain pens. Wish I had the penmanship to use them well. Yeah, I'm not into fountain pens because they dry up on me for some reason. I'm kind of the way the Trump regime is about vaginas. Every time I touch it, it dries up. But this Sharpie pen I've got, Sharpie Gel S, I think it is, yeah. S Gel. Good pen, not expensive. I've got a couple that I've got on order from Amazon that I've had recommended to me. So I'm just waiting to see them. And because I do write notes before I record, I need good pens. But it's a weird thing. I'll let you see behind the curtain a little bit. When I record a video, I write down copious notes while I'm watching the movie. Like maybe 3 or 4 pages per movie, minimum. And then when I'm recording, I don't look at them. What gets it into my memory is the act of writing down the notes. I'll occasionally refer to them, but not often. But the physical and mental act of writing down notes on a pad about the movie, puts it into my memory for some reason. And they're basically an adjunct to my brain rather than something I'll read off while I'm doing the recording. It's a weird thing, but it works for me. Does anybody else have that? Where the writing down of notes adds to your memory in a way? It's a very weird thing. More coffee is required. So that was the first one. Bloodlust. I've got to stay on track. This one's an Arrow video. Now, I'm a big fan of erotic films of a certain era. That era mostly being the 60s and 70s. And this Radley Metzger movie, The Licorice Quartet, is one of those stylish, not X-rated, but R-rated erotic films, which has got a weird European style about it. It's kind of like an art house erotic film in a sense. Let's see what it says. It doesn't. A rich, jaded couple and their grown-up son, bored after a night watching pornography, visit a traveling stunt show, the star of which bears a striking similarity to the woman in the sex film they just saw, even though it was made 30 years before. Invited back to the castle for a drink, she soon becomes embroiled in a night of bizarre carnality, fantasy fulfillment, and highly charged love games. I like that one. I like Radley Metzger's movies. I like Score. There's a whole bunch of them. This one's good too because you get a VHS, sorry, you get a Blu-ray and a DVD of it. And you get an ad for Tinto Brass movies, which I can't show you too much. And you also get a booklet. I can't show you the back of that because it's really nice. But it has essays about the film. I really like this movie. I won't watch it too often, but I do like that time when adult films had plots and characters and were taken seriously by the creators as storytelling, as much as they were there to be titillating. Deb says, yeah, I totally get that. Writing notes before doing radio especially. Yeah, the physical act of writing imprints things on your memory. Forsale says, yep, the act of writing things down fortifies my memory. And Adam says, we screened Licorice in our film nights. A good date movie, even though it's sensual. Well, a date movie. I mean, I've seen a lot of movies as date movies. I mean, one person I was seeing, the first date night movie we went and saw was Silence of the Lambs. That relationship did not last. There's something about Hannibal Lecter that's just a turn off. But yeah, I mean, I will always write down notes before I do a video. And I use a lot of paper and a lot of pens, but it's just so useful to what I do here. And also, yeah, keeping my penmanship at a level that's at least readable to me. I mean, that's not too bad, is it? That's my listicle book. But yeah, my new pens, I'm looking forward to getting them. I should get them this week or next week. They're coming from overseas, but I get free postage. Next movie, how many have we got? I've got another 4. Here we go. Everybody should know this film, and everybody should love this film. It is on DVD rather than Blu-ray or 4K. Restored print on 16.9 anamorphic. This had the best swinging dick cast of any 1959 English film ever. Hell Drivers. Stanley Baker, Patrick McGowan, Herbert Lom, William Hartnell, Sean Connery, Sid James, David McCallum. About truck drivers in a road haulage company that's trying to get more work out of the workers than is legally permitted. Yeah, it is a brilliant film, Adam. But Hell Drivers, I first saw that on late night TV. Great movie. And the weird thing about this copy of Hell Drivers is it was from Madman Films. And there's McGowan being vicious. You get a copy of Hell Drivers, special edition. Here are two other movies. An episode of Danger Man and a movie with Stanley Baker on it as extras. Fantastic stuff. But yeah, Hell Drivers is like top tier English film of the late 1950s. And all of these hungry, talented, charismatic as hell actors just going head to head. Makes it even better. Adam says, makes the country lanes of rural UK exciting. It does. I'm very happy to have a copy of this one. Don't need the upgrade, but yeah, it is a cool edition of it. And I like it's rated M for violence. Yeah, it sold me on that. But there's some of the images on the back. And the other good thing about it too is it's a working class movie. It's not posh received pronunciation. It's a cool working class thriller, and I really like it for that. Let's see, what am I going to do next? Because I've got a few here. I've actually got four more. D. Lee says, Hell Drivers was a nursery slap for future cult film and TV royalty. Yeah, absolutely. And whoever did the casting for that movie, needs a kiss on the cheek. It is a really fine film. This one I like because it doesn't work. It's a comedy movie with Anne Margaret, Michael York, Marty Feldman, Peter Ustinov, James Earl Jones. This one is silly, but I like it. The last remake of Beau Geste, which oddly enough, I think it has been. I don't know if there's been another remake of Beau Geste where Marty Feldman and Michael York play twins. It's funny, it's silly, it's over the top. It breaks the fourth wall repeatedly. It's not up to, say, a Mel Brooks movie. But I do like the fact that it does something silly. Who directed this one? Very badly printed back cover. Doesn't tell me. But I like it. And it's a kind of rarity as well. It's not a movie that's talked about at all. But if you know the other versions of Beau Geste, one of which had Guy Stockwell in it, you will dig that movie. And Anne Margaret, who was really good at comedy, has a lot of fun in this one. Yeah, let's do this next one. I'm dragging this one out because I'm trying to do a video about giallo movies, Italian stylish horror films, thrillers, murder mysteries, all that kind of gear. And so I dragged out my Arrow edition, excuse me, of Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace, which is one of the most beautifully, colorfully saturated giallo movies. And it's one of the first ones too, early 1960s, way before giallo became a really, really, really big thing for people. But Blood and Black Lace, I like a lot. I only saw it for the first time a few years ago. Deb says, I remember seeing it in the cinema. It was fun, but not brilliant. That'd be the last remake of Beau Geste. Yeah, it's fun. Adam says, love it apart from that sleepy music score. I kind of like the music score. I think it's weird. But there is so many extras on the back of this one. It's one of those Arrow video editions that really went to town on the extras. Forstar says, I just checked Hell Drivers is on YouTube. Cool. But you got to be careful with that stuff because you'll bookmark it to watch it later, and then suddenly it's got a copyright strike and it disappears off the platform. But Blood and Black Lace with Cameron Mitchell and a whole bunch of beautiful Italian women set in a fashion house. This one you got to check out. It's got a very weird intro and very kind of spooky vibe about it. Deb says Blood and Black Lace is great. Yeah, it is. And I'm glad I got a decent edition of it too. I didn't know there were a couple of slightly shonky DVD editions that came out, which were burnt from VHS ones. Yeah, Adam, shockingly violent for its day. But Bava, it was just such a wonderful stylist and did a lot with a little. I mean, the sets were minimalist at times, but they were fascinating at the same time as well. In the same way his stuff for Planet of the Vampires was. Really liked that one. Groovy movie. Do we want coffee or do we want water? We'll go water. And he says, I like the intro. It's like a fashion video. Very Euro cool. It is. It sets up the vibe without setting up the horror part of the vibe. And I kind of like that. Let me just put my feet up here onto my stool under the table. There we go. Here's one you might not have heard of. But it's great. 88 Films put this out. God of Gamblers with Chow Yun-fat, Andy Lau, and Joey Wong. Adam says it's like a TV episode introduction. Yeah, Blood and Black Lace is. But God of Gamblers with Chow Yun-fat is just fantastic. Really groovy movie about a guy called Dushen, who is a gambler that cannot be beaten in any game ever. And he accidentally gets chucked down a cliff and gets a bump on the head and gets amnesia and acts very childish after that. But he hasn't lost his skills. And a poor gambler played by Tony Lau finds him, takes him back to his shanty, and starts using Doshan to win gambling games. Fantastically stylish. It makes gambling feel like a fist fight. There's the inside one. We do have a book and a poster. Cool. I've forgotten about this. Chow Yun-fat, one of the most charismatic Hong Kong actors at the end of the 20th century. There were a whole bunch of sequels, not many of which are actually related to the original movie. But we do have a double-sided poster, which I like. I like that. Hang on. And there's that one as well. Deb says, I have to look out for God of Gamblers. Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really fun. Emily says, love God of Gamblers. Saw it at Fantasia Film Fest, and the audience went wild when Chow Yun-fat first appeared. Yeah, he's underrated. There are some Chow Yun-fat movies that are starting to turn up. Imprint and Viavision are putting them out on 4K. But they're the John Woo ultraviolet ones. Nonetheless, it's good to see Chow Yun-fat getting a bit of love again. But yeah, you got to check this one out. God of Gamblers. The first one, the other ones are very different. Some of them are ultra violent in a very nasty way, but this one balances some violence, lots of gambling, and a bit of comedy, and the balance works. It just has all of the plates on the sticks and keeps them there. Water again. Last one is 2 movies on 1 disc, which I'm not a big fan of. But it was the only way to get these 2 movies. A movie and its sequel that nobody talks about. It's an English one from the 1940s and 1950s. The first one was about 1948 in black and white. Second one was in 1954 in color. Same actress playing the same character. Miranda and Mad About Men, where Glynis Johns plays a mermaid. This is way before Splash. It's even before the American version that they stole with, I don't know if Clifton Webb was in it. But Miranda and Mad About Men are just such fun and a bit naughty as well, because Miranda the mermaid is fascinated with human men. And not just one of them. She's fascinated with pretty much all human men. She likes legs. She's not unashamed of her own sexuality. Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid. Yeah, that's the one, Patrick. But these two are so much naughtier and so much more fun than Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid. And even Splash is a watered-down version of this, and I use that deliberately. These two are great. I'm going to put this one out to watch again because I want to revisit these 2 movies. Now, let me stop covering the name of the movies. Beautiful fun, very forward-looking, let's say. Adam says, I like film about strange aquatic women laying about in ponds. No, these ones are definitely oceanic. Ponds don't do it for them. There's also some good locations in both of these films on the Cornish coast. So the locations are really nice too. These old villages before they were turned into the homes of the rich and tourist traps. So I'm going to pause a little bit on that stuff and not do the box sets just yet, but I'll do them later because we've still got another hour to fill. Let me just put those to one side, if I can, in the crowded mess that is the man cave. Deb says, I remember watching these when I was a kid. Lots of fun. Yeah, they are. They're great movies. They're saucy. Not fish sauce, but saucy. I may have made that coffee even too strong for me, but I'll wear it and I'll go to sleep in a couple of days anyway. Let me have a look. Where's my list? My list has been covered up. Talked about that. I just talked about basically. Hang on. Hat's getting itchy. One of the things I wanted to talk about. I've got an odd relationship to movies. More odd than a lot of people realize. Because when I was a child, movie cinemas were a sanctuary for me. And to tell you why, I've got to tell you about my life in a sense. When my father got custody of my brother and I when I was like 7 years old and hid us from my mother until we were grown up, and you could do that in the 1960s. You shouldn't, but you could. The one sanctuary I had from the brutality of my life was cinemas. On Saturday mornings at around noon, there'd be a double feature at the local cinema in Liverpool, New South Wales. And we get sent to watch the movies. so my father could get in a solid 5 hours of drinking with his girlfriend at the pub down the bottom of the street. And the only rest I got from a life that was violent and brutal was cinemas, going to see movies. I mean, sometimes I didn't like the movies. I wasn't all that fond of a lot of Elvis movies, for instance, but I saw a wide range of films. And the weird thing about the kiddie matinees they had at the Regal Theatre in Liverpool was they'd show you anything. They'd show you Matt Helm films with Dean Martin taking a bath with Lovey Craves It, and they'd show you weird crimi movies with English dubbing in them. And they'd show you, yes, you would see things like Jason the Argonauts, and you'd see Puff and stuff, and see all sorts of other stuff like that. But we got to see a wide range of films, and not all of them were kid appropriate. They were just what the independent cinema I went to had available and could rent cheaply from the distribution companies. And so cinemas were always a sanctuary for me. And when I became a teenager and I started working when I was 15, they were a sanctuary for me again, because after work, rather than going home to the violence at home, I'd go to the cinema in the city and come home at like 10 o'clock at night, catch a number of hours sleep, and then go to work next day. And so I'm really aware at the moment that for me, I have the same relationship to cinemas as many people had to churches. And yes, that makes me very different, makes it kind of weird. But they were safe spaces where I could be entertained. It was in the dark. You could be anonymous. I didn't have to keep looking over my shoulder all the time. And that's one of the reasons I became the movie buff I am, is because cinemas, even in the roughest parts of Melbourne and Sydney, always feel like safe spaces for me. They're the third place I had when I had no other third place. I was bullied at school, I was bullied at home, but cinemas were safe. Adam says, so all films must be comforting to you. Yeah, I mean, apart from Melania. But yeah, and it gives me a different relationship to film than a lot of other people had. And I think it is the positive that came out of a very negative upbringing. And I've turned it into something different now. But when I talk to people about movies, when I'm sitting around shooting the shit with the Cinemaniacs people, when I go to the Astor, and when I'm talking online as well, I do have that realization that I came from a very different film appreciation culture that I created for myself than a lot of other people did. So yeah, that's I'm kind of living that again in a way, because I want to write something down about my history watching movies. And to do that, I've got to go into the heart of darkness, because it's part of it. And even before, when my mother had custody of my brother and I, when she had some money, which wasn't often, she'd take me to the movies. And we'd see weird things like Move Over Darling with Doris Day and James Garner. And my uncles, Roy and John, would take me to the cinema to see This Island Earth, which scared the shit out of me. But I still got to go to the cinema. And they did it because they wanted to take me away from the trauma I was experiencing from my father, even when my mother had custody of us. It's a very different world that I grew up in than we live in now. Zoe Adams says, I'm looking forward to the Backrooms film. Yeah, and there's a Platform 8. There's another one very similar to that. But yeah, I am. I want to see what those movies are doing. What have we got coming up in the cinemas locally? Excuse me while I just type here. If I could type accurately, it'd be a help. Because we're going to see what there is in my local cinema coming up. I am not going to see that. I am not going to see The Helmet and the Muppet. But let's just assume tomorrow. Let's find something. There's a lot of Indian diaspora movies in my local. I'm kind of tempted to see In the Grey, which is the new Guy Ritchie movie. I hear good things about that. That's one possibility. I'm definitely not going to go see Mortal Kombat 2. I'll wait till it comes out on streaming. I do hear really good things about Obsession, and I want to see that. And again, that's a movie that was created by people who started out on YouTube. Passenger, I'm hearing mixed things about. Not going to go see The Devil Wears Prada 2 because I never saw the first one. Not seeing The Sheep Detectives because Hugh Jackman was a friend of the Trumps. And I don't really need to see the Super Mario Galaxy movie. My local cinemas are not doing a lot of good stuff. Exit 8 is absolute rubbish, says Sammy Adams. And Adam says, yeah, I hear from good sources that Obsession is very good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. That one I'm definitely going to go and see. Dealey disagrees and says Exit 8 was pretty good. I know it's based on a game. One of those kind of creepy horror games that builds up on you. But yeah, I do want to see it. Zami Adams says, I saw Obsession last Friday. Thought it was okay. Yeah, I do want to see it. I think there's a new breed of horror movie makers that are coming out that come from a very different idea of horror. And I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I like a lot of A24 stuff. I like the comedy horror stuff, like all of the blood and guts ones that are coming up. What did I see? Hide and Seek. Is it Hide and Seek? No. Ready or Not. Sorry. And Ready or Not 2. And They Will Kill You. I saw that as well. That kind of stuff I really enjoy. I like a lot of blood and guts and a laugh as well. So, yeah, local cinemas are not doing a lot apart from The Helmet and the Muppet. And there are a lot of sessions of The Helmet and the Muppet at my local cinema. Weird thing about that movie is even the hardcore Star Wars fans, I know, and I know an egregiously large amount of them, kind of went, it was okay. I'm fairly sure that as far as cinema movies are concerned, the Star Wars franchise is kind of diminishing. There's been nothing that's blown people away lately. It's the first one in 7 years. First feature film in the Star Wars franchise in 7 years. So I think that one's diminishing. I believe there is going to be a Star Trek reboot in the cinemas as well, now that the Star Trek streaming series have faded away. They're looking at doing a reboot in cinemas, and I'll be interested to see what they do with that. Amazon's also getting serious about a James Bond reboot. They are talking Henry Cavill at the moment, though Cavill's just at that point where he might be a bit too old to do 3 or 4 or 5 movies in that franchise, but he looks right for the role and he can act. And also Jeff Bezos owns the rights to James Bond now, and he wants his unfortunately enhanced wife to be a Bond girl. Do you like the way I phrase that? But I do want to see what happens with James Bond. I've been invested in that franchise since I was a very young child. and it'll either piss away the potential or give us something we haven't seen before that's interesting. And I'm just going to wait and find out exactly what that is. I'm not judging ahead of time. I'm going to see what they present to us, evaluate it accordingly, and we go on from there. Adam says Cavill would be good. Also, Amazon won't spend that long between films. They should bash one out every 2 to 3 years. That's possible. D. Lee says, I'm not sure Disney did as well out of buying the rights to Star Wars from George Lucas as they thought they would. They've made bank on it. And you got to remember, too, you buy the rights to Star Wars, you buy the rights to all the toys. And Star Wars makes more money on merch than it's ever going to make on movies. It's a multi-headed serpent in that sense. Hi, Franny. How you doing? How's the weather up there? Ralph says, make Cavill Bond since they aren't doing anything with the Warhammer 40K thing in Henry Cavill, which is a passion project for him, yeah. Late as I was getting my hair done. Okay. You're excused. It's okay. But, yeah, I mean, I like Henry Cavill. I think he's from everything I've seen, and of course, PR has its fingers in the bowl of every movie star's life. From everything I see about Henry Cavill, he's a reasonable guy. He's not one of those people they've got to keep putting out fires for. Forsale says, Hollywood milk as a franchise for all it's worth. Yeah, that's my saying about it. They milk the cash cow until it turns to beef jerky. They sell the beef jerky, and they complain that audiences don't want bones. That's how it works. And for me, Star Wars is such a simplistic binary world. There's either good and bad. And yes, of course, they have tried to retcon that with things like Andor, and I respect them for trying that. Haven't seen it, but a lot of people I respect say it's a good series. But they've had to retcon the stupidities of having a good versus evil binary moral universe in that franchise. And a lot of effort and a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of people have gone into retconning that. Adam says, what do the baddies want in Star Wars? What do billionaires want in our world? It's the same question. Everything. Sammy Adam says, horror films scare me when I don't see them coming. The Triple X movies, Expensive Taste 1978, is a classic example. Shocks you to the core. Okay, I haven't heard about that one. Let me see. Expensive Taste 1978. By the way, if you don't want Google to know what you're searching on Google, you can make your search page a thing called startpage.com, which anonymizes your data searches. So it will do the searches for you, but it won't let Google know that it's you. That's the Expensive Taste. Okay, it sounds like it was one of those roughies from the time. There were adult films that were called roughies, which were basically about assaults, about brutality. And there were a lot of them, particularly in the late 60s and into the early 70s. There are a lot of those ones, and a lot of the more prominent actresses wouldn't work in them. For that reason, they were not very sex positive. And again, that's another genre of film that I probably won't talk about on the channel. I do have a list of about 12 movie genres that no longer exist, but I'm saving that for a video. I'll give you two of them. I'll give you a taste. Get the book out. Okay. In Italy, there was a kind of posh movie genre in the 1930s when Mussolini was running things called white telephone movies, which were about beautiful posh people. They were dramas, they were comedies. But because posh people were the only people that had white Bakelite telephones, they were called white telephone movies. And I'm kind of fascinated with that because poor people, if they had a phone at all, could only get the black Bakelite phones. But they had a whole genre of posh dramas and comedies and musicals that were known as white telephone movies. So that's a genre that no longer exists. It pretty much died out when Mussolini and his girlfriend were hung upside down off a petrol station. But there are a lot of genres that lasted for a short time and say a lot about the moment in history in a particular culture in which they were made. And I kind of like that. I think having that imprint of zeitgeist, of the signs of the times in a genre, makes it kind of interesting. I am going to get that video out at some stage, but I've got to do a lot of work on it. But yeah, there were white telephone movies as one of the Italian genres of the 1930s. Quite hard to find the movies, but I can at least find enough to talk about them. Promise you two, so I'll give you another one of my genres. Blah, blah, blah. Got too many lists here. This is fascinating for you, isn't it? Mondo movies. Mondo movies like Mondo Cane, Mondo Topless, Mondo Balordo. Those kind of Mondo movies, which are kind of pseudo documentaries, which aren't necessarily totally accurate and tell the truth. They had a big thing in the 1960s. Mondo Cane was the first big one, which has some very confronting scenes in it. They had documentary footage from around the world. A guy called Jacopetti filmed it. The song from it, More, was nominated for an Academy Award. But Mondo Cane was violent. They had things like Gurkhas with giant cookery knives cutting the heads off cows in Mondo Cane. And there were other Mondo movies like Women of the World, which was narrated by Peter Ustinov. Mondo Balordo, which is about the weirdness of Italian people, which was narrated in English by Boris Karloff. And you can find a couple of these on Tubi if you look around. But Mondo movies were a weird genre of showing weird stuff from other cultures that were a little bit confronting, a little bit naughty, a little bit odd. These days, they'd be YouTube videos. Adam says, I can't remember that bit in Cane, but I have memory booked. I watched Mondo Cane this year. And yeah, it's a little bit full on. When did I watch it? Did I watch it on Tubi or did I download a copy? I think I found a torrent of Mondo Cane. Africa Adio is the worst of the Jacopetti bunch. Says Adam, yeah, absolutely. Africa Adio got a VHS release here in Australia. And it was very controversial at the time. Excuse me, I just got to clean my nose up. Forsale says, I have Boris Karloff's autograph. Cool. He was apparently a really nice guy. He used to visit kids in hospital and read them fairy stories. Fantastic guy. Biggest horror movie monster of all time. But the gentlest of men. And I really like that. The fact that he played the worst of us, but in real life he was among the best of us. Also, the other thing too is he was Anglo-Indian. His grandparent, one of his grandparents, was Indian, like not First Nations American, but from India, which is why he had this slightly exotic look about him. Adam says, I have Elmore Leonard's autograph. Cool. I've got the first paperback edition of Game of Thrones autographed by George R.R. Martin. I had a good chat with George at the time. It was like 1995, before Game of Thrones hit. And he just put out the first in the series. Lovely guy. Him and his partner, Paris, are really lovely people. Who else's autograph have I got? Got Robert Mitchum's. I got an autographed picture of Robert Mitchum in the hall. I do have Peter Fonda's autograph. Who else have I got? Quite a lot of books autographed by people I know. But yeah, I didn't really lean into getting things autographed unless they really meant something to me. And the autographed books, particularly by authors I know and respect above all, I've got a bunch of those. Adam says, my brother has the first 3 Quatermass Penguin books autographed by Nigel Neal. I think it's time to do a robbery at your brother's house. Sneak in, wear black, put go the full diabolic and grab them off your brother. It'll be a whole caper. You can even film it. It'll be fun. A little bit of stylish music under there. You can make it a whole thing. Dilly says, have Boris Karloff's daughter's signature and Ray Harryhausen's on books. Cool. Yeah, I mean, my autograph things don't really have a lot of value because they're autographed to me. I didn't go with a generic autograph, which increases the value of autographs for reasons best known to autograph collectors. They're autographed to me. Deb says, where's your brother live, Adam? Deb, you are not going to go from Tasmania to Adam's place or where his brother lives. But yeah, autograph books are good because I know authors love autographing books and they love the fact that people appreciate them. But, yeah, I mean, I've been to so many book launches in my day that, and I'll read them as well. My copy of Game of Thrones is pretty well thumbed through. But I know authors really, really like having the books autographed. What else have I got on my list? Just waiting for the chat to catch up with me. Yeah, one of the things that's pissing me off increasingly, as far as movie buffs are concerned, is the people who only watch old movies. I think they're doing themselves such a great disservice by only watching old movies. I appreciate old movies as much as anybody does. My back room would be half empty if it wasn't for old movies. But to limit yourself to only watching and enjoying old movies is kind of masturbatory in a way. I like finding new things that are interesting. I also like finding old things that are interesting, but I'm not going to get into that headspace of not appreciating people who are doing things with cinema that hadn't been done before. And they're doing it from different perspectives, different cultural perspectives, different generational perspectives. I'm really big on learning from younger people who make films. And to be honest, at my age, most filmmakers are a lot younger than me. But I'm willing to listen and willing to learn. And also diverse people, non-binary people, gay, trans, lesbian, whatever, intersex, asexual. I want to learn from new people. I love the fact that young YouTubers are making good movies now and are using not film schools, which are essentially elite organizations, but are using YouTube as their training ground for making movies. I love that. I think it's great. And one of the things that was said to me by a very bad man was, and if you ask me, I'll tell you who the bad man was, is that cinema is a young genre. It's a young art form. It's only 130 years old, heading towards 150 years old. We're still learning the potential of film as a way of telling stories. Yes, there have been a lot of them, but there's still a lot to learn on refining and expanding and increasing the language of cinema. And I really like the fact that there are new things coming out. And there are new ways of storytelling that are only now emerging from cinema. That shit delights me. Deb says, for Nigel Newey, hell yeah, it's a caper. It'll be fun. We can film it. Yeah. So Deb's going to go and rob your brother, Adam. Went to see Nigel Neal at the ICA in London, says Adam, and he was sat in the doorway chatting with everyone, far from his grumpy reputation. Cool. And Forsyth says, YouTube's a goldmine when it comes to short films. I agree. It is really an economy of generosity rather than being an economy of money. Sharing things on YouTube, which admittedly I do, that generosity pays dividends. And it's not the reason we do it, but if you're generous and kind and inclusive and stupid like me, that generosity pays dividends, not financial ones necessarily, but it's great to be able to share things. Friday says, I used to have Michael Moorcock's autograph on books and the Hawkwind albums, and David Gerald's an unfilmed script of a Robin Highline story he wrote. Cool. He's still on Facebook being the grumpy man he is, David. Dogstad says, nostalgia is a comfort zone in these uncertain times. Maybe that's why Turner Classics is still popular. Yeah, it is, but I think you can't retreat to comfort all the time. I respect that. I mean, I'm going to be doing a video about comfort movies because of going through the rocky bit I have at the moment. But I like both. I like old, I like new. And I think that's the best of us when we do that. We have a super chat from DB Cooper. I apologize for using your live chat for background noise for my Sunday nap, but your voice relaxes me. Whatever gets you through the day, brother. Appreciate the bump and enjoy the nap. Just don't have any dreams about me because you're going to really fuck yourself up if you do. Yeah, but I understand where you're coming from, Dogstad. And I will retreat to comfort films when I need to. And a lot of those are older films as well. So I'm on your side with this, but I also, because I'm self-educated, I'm like a shark. I've got to keep swimming. And I've got to keep learning new things. I've got to keep seeing new things. And because I am on part of the Film Critics Association, I get to see movies without being charged for them as long as I review them. And so I can appreciate new movies. Things like the movie with Wagner Moura in it, The Secret Agent. Saw it for the first time this year, only just came out. One of the great movies. I'm getting it on Blu-ray. But I would hate to retreat to comfort movies and miss out on seeing a movie like The Secret Agent or seeing a movie like The Substance or seeing any of the new ones, Begonia. I want to combine the new with the old while appreciating that for some people it is a comfort. Dog Stat says, is that a Team toy? No, I think it's from a Minions movie or something. Somebody gave it to me. But it's great. Friday says, my fart gun is in sync with yours. It's kind of like women who live together, Friday. Yeah, it's a Despicable Me Minions fart gun, yeah, which was a gift. We've also got somewhere a Mars Attacks gun that was given to me by my good friend Cheryl Morgan. But I'm going to have to find that again now. I've gone off on a tangent. It's up there somewhere. But yeah, fart guns are great. Always appreciate my fart gun. It's always here on the desk somewhere or next to the desk somewhere. Hey, we've got about half an hour left, so I've got to do the box sets I'm going to recommend. So I did promise more show and tell. And in this case, it is 5 box sets I'm recommending. Franny says, my good news for the week is that The Magicians, all 5 seasons, is back on Prime. Cool, I'll have to check that out if it's available here in Australia, which is not guaranteed. Okay, first box set to recommend. This will come under comfort films. We were talking about that a moment ago, older films as comfort films. But this box set, no way you couldn't think of it as comfort films. Restored complete collection of Jacques Tati movies. If you haven't grokked Jacques Tati yet, you're going to have a great time. It's got all of them. It's got Jour de Fête, Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, Mon Oncle, Playtime, Traffic, and Parade. All of them are there. That one has a cover that's a bit manky. But it's all of the Jacques Tati movies. Jour de Fête I love. Monsieur Hulot's Holiday is a work of genius. Mon Oncle I love. Playtime I love. Traffic's fantastic. Parade is something he did for, I think, Swedish television, which is kind of interesting. There's the cover for Parade. There's Traffic. There's Playtime. Mon Oncle. Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, which has the best soundtrack. And Jour de Fête, which was the first feature film he made. But I'm glad I did have this on DVD, and then I got a cheap upgrade. But and there, of course, is all of Jacques Tati's characters there. It's just a joy. It is comfort viewing. Maybe I should watch Monsieur Hulot's Holiday as part of my comfort film retrospective. That's a thought. But yeah, Jacques Tati movies, fantastic. There are Criterion editions of them. Every time I watch people in the Criterion closet, and there's about one person a week who goes into there. Some are better than others. If you watch the Criterion YouTube channel, and they have either an actor or a filmmaker in the Criterion closet, there are moments when you think, that actor's fucking stupid. Or you find out that an actor you think is kind of mid has the most beautiful taste in film and speaks about it eloquently. It's a real mixed bag when you watch people in the Criterion closet. But I watch it every week and I learn things about films I never knew. And that's part of the joy of this. But Jacques Tati's collection, and there is the Criterion edition of the Tati movies with lots of extras on it. This is the Madman Films version, but I've got the films. And for me, that is what matters. And that's one of the things I was going to talk about too. It's nice having all the extras. It's nice having the collector's editions that I get sent to review, which have the essays about the movies in them. They have the posters, they have the cards, all that stuff. But most of the time, for me, it's the movies. Yes, I could upgrade a lot of the things I have if I had the money to premium editions that have all the bells and the whistles and all the fancy shit in them. But then I remind myself that it's about a movie. And something I got, Ice Station Zebra, for 50 cents at Lakes Entrance on DVD. I don't need all the extras for that. It's a good movie by itself. And I appreciate it as a standalone. And yes, it's nice when it is presented with all the extras, but it comes back to the film. Adam says, I've been a bit remiss about watching Tati. Any filmmakers you feel the same about? We got some here. Got a couple here for you in these box sets, Adam. So hold on. This one I got, which is from Powerhouse. I paid a bit for it because it's Australia and you pay for anything that comes from overseas. Mexico Macabre, with the Black Pit of Dr. M, the Witch's Mirror, the Curse of the Crying Woman, and the Brainiac. These are Mexican horror films from the 50s and 60s, which are crazy. They've all got a kind of Catholic perspective on horror and on monsters. There's a lobby card from the Brainiac. There's another one. And Mexican movie posters of a certain era have a real style about them that I like. There is one of them there. Great stylish images of it. Any of those you could frame. Forsyth says, have a few of those Mexican horror films on DVD, fun stuff. Adam says, missed out on that one. Would love to watch it. They look like fun. Yeah, they are. And the interesting thing about this one is, not only do you get a book, there's a woman that doesn't take care of her hand, but all of the discs are on cardboard, so that there's less non-recyclable material, I suppose. But each one of them has fantastic artwork on them. And there's the Brainiac, of course. But yeah, I really like this one because it took me to a film culture and a film genre culture that I wasn't familiar with. I'd seen the Brainiac around on cheap VHS at one stage, but I never picked it up. But they're all low budget. The bats and the spiders are all incredibly fake looking, but they are really interesting. This was a limited edition of 6,000, but I really enjoyed watching Mexico Macabre. I'm not that big on the Mexican wrestler horror movies. For me, they don't hit, but these ones do. Yeah, there are spiders in some of them. Next one. Fritz Lang rebooted his Dr. Mabusa character in the 1960s. These are the Mabusa movies from 60 to 64. He didn't make all of them, but Mabusa Lives is a fantastic early 1960s reboot. It's got Gert Frober in some of them. The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabusa, The Return of Dr. Mabusa, The Invisible Dr. Mabusa, The Testament of Dr. Mabusa, Scotland Yard Hunts Dr. Mabusa, and The Death Ray of Dr. Mabusa. They've got people like Peter Van Eyck in them and a lot of familiar faces like, who else is in them? Just a lot of German actors who look very familiar if you've seen Krimi movies. There's Gert Frober on the cover there too. On the backs there. It does have Lex Barker in at least one of these movies, and he was a nasty piece of shit. We get a booklet, which is very cool. It's quite a thick one with a lot of info. And the discs are in shared cases. So you get them there. There's Peter Van Eyck and Dawn Adams in The Thousand Eyes of Dr. Mabuse. Very stylish stuff. Flip that over. But yeah, I like German Krimi movies and crime movies of the 1960s. They're unique in their style and their approach to things and the supernatural aspects of Dr. Mabuse, who takes over the minds and bodies of people in order to make himself immortal, are very groovy. I've got the older ones too, the older Fritz Lang ones from the 1920s and 30s. But that was a nice release. Who put this out? Eureka put it out. But if you can find that one, really nice box set that I recommend. 2 more to go. Sliding down the screen here a bit. Let me see if I can tilt that. Yeah, up. Too much. That'll have to do. Adam says, yeah, I'd watch these two. Maybe some criminals are a bit sleepy though, but the Mabuse films look more swinging now. And the set designs are really good, and also some of the locations are really good as well. KN says, I wonder if this will last longer in the cardboard cases than plastic. People talk about off-gassing affecting these things. I put the first DVD I've ever got, Talented Mr. Ripley, I put that in the player. It still plays well, and it's more than 25 years old. I don't know if that's still a thing. I think when people talk about disc rot and things like that, they tend to live in quite humid climates, and they get a little bit of mildew and fungal infection there. But where I live and how I live, really not an issue. This one from Arrow is fun. Japanese yokai movies. Yokai Monsters Collection. This one I like because I like yokai. Adam says, do I store my Blu-rays in a cellar? We don't have cellars in Australia. We have houses, but the part of the house they're in is not damp. It's very, it stays fairly cool. It's shaded. Don't get a problem. Kane says, my taxi driver DVD bought in 2000 still plays, no problems. Cool. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, Kane, whether they store better in cardboard rather than plastic. We'll probably find out in 30 years from now. But at this stage, everything seems to be running smoothly. Yeah, so yokai movies. The lovely thing about this yokai movie collection is you get a big poster with all the monsters in it. And on the back, it tells you what they are. There's also a book telling you about yokai. This one was directed by Takashi Miike, who did Audition, amongst other things, and Ichi the Killer. And we got cards in here as well. Just too much of everything for these things. Deb says the early Mabuse films are excellent. They are. Beautiful artwork on these cards. There's a kappa there in the middle. Umbrella monster. And on the back you got those kind of things. The special effects in these yokai movies are all like practical effects, and they're fantastic. This one's got 1,000 monsters, spooky warfare, and along with ghosts. It's just advertising, get rid of that. But yeah, Japanese yokai movies I like a lot, particularly things like kappas, which are river monsters. And if you go to Tokyo near Asakusa, there's a place called Kababashi, which is where you buy all of your kitchen gear. It's a whole suburb in Tokyo, which is dedicated to shops selling kitchen stuff. And the theme of it is kappas. So you got these green beaked turtle-shelled monsters all over the place. Okay, and so it's probably search YouTube for some of those Mexican horror films, but I wouldn't be paying for them. Sorry, in print. Well, it wasn't in print, but I understand what you're saying. Deb says, love the artwork. Yeah, yokai monsters, all good stuff there. Really love them. Terrific. It's just occurred to me, all of these are from non-English language cultures. Last one I haven't looked at yet. Last one I haven't dipped into at all. But I got it quite cheaply for some reason. Jean-Pierre Melville collection. What we got? Bob Le Flambeur, Leo Morin-Prot, the Doulos Army of Shadows, the Red Circle, Flick, and a bonus disc. D-Lee says, I have that Yoko box set. It's good. Sorry, Indicator, says Jan. So it's got all the Melville stuff in here. And they're all in this big, long box set. This is the problem with some of these good box sets I've got. The only place I've got to store them are on top of the shelves. And because they're way above eye level, I kind of forget that they're there sometimes. And it was only when I was searching for them for this video that I remembered I had all these cool movies. There you go. There's all of the movies. Jean-Pierre Melville turns up as a character as well in Linklater's Nouvelle Vague, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, they're the box sets I've got for you. Fantastic stuff. I really love them. Getting back to that thing of only watching old movies rather than new movies as well. If you want to do that, you can also watch old films from other countries, old French films, old Italian films, old German films. There were some good German films made even when Hitler was doing his thing that weren't political. Japanese films and Chinese films and even Filipino films. You can stick to old movies and still expand from that into interesting ways. Deb says, by the way, just finished your beanie and cast one from the same yarn for sale. Thank you, Deb. Appreciate that. As soon as it turns up, it's in a video. Blue Angel says, Friday. Yeah, absolutely. A whole bunch of stuff that, I mean, you can just stick to American movies, but after the pre-code era, they do get somewhat infantilized. And there are a lot of movies that could have been so much better had the guardrails been set wider than they were by the production code. And there would have been some particularly good filmmakers who didn't feel constrained by somebody else's idea of what's appropriate and what isn't. Yeah, the coffee's cold, but it's coffee. D-Lee says, there's a rich selection of silent and early films from around the world. Yeah. Kayan says, I must confess to preferring older movies to new ones as well. Yeah, but expand outwards from it. Don't just stick to the culture you know. Find out about old movies from elsewhere. You're not going to miss out. Adam says, Ryan Verrill didn't get it on with Breathless. Somehow dipping your toe in the area of film is enough. Stick the whole foot in, Ryan. I'm actually doing Ryan's live stream in June. Here's a surprise for you. Ryan's invited me onto the Disconnected. And we're going to do something. We don't know what yet. But Ryan and I are going to be live streaming, which for me is going to be incredibly groovy. And I'm looking forward to that. And I feel very honored by it. Yeah, I love the Disconnected as well. Ryan also is a lovely guy. He is on the side of the angels. He is incredibly inclusive on his channel. He has a lot of LGBTQIA plus people talking about movies on his channel, as well as straight geezers like me. Ryan is part of my community of film appreciators, and I respect him for that. And his new releasing company, Antenna, I hope it goes to all strength because he's doing some really interesting stuff there. He networks incredibly well, and he is a good man. Okay, and says, just ordered a Blu-ray of Candle for the Devil from 1973. Let me look that up. A Candle for the Devil, also known as It Happened in Nightmare Inn, directed by Eugenio Martin. That's got a great theatrical poster. Bloody love that poster. 1973 Spanish film. Cool. Yeah, Adam. Ryan is lovely, even though he doesn't like Breathless. Maybe you should have started with something like The Bride Wore Black, because that'd be a fun one to start with. Deb says, I love to challenge myself, get out of my comfort zone and watch lots of different films. Yeah, it's part of the fun of it. One of the other things I've done, which is really weird, is my letterbox goes back about 12 years. I was an early adopter of that New Zealand-based platform. And so I can go back and see what films I was watching in 2016 and as far back as 2014. And it's good too because there are some small science fiction movies I haven't talked about on this channel from 2014, 2015, 2016 that nobody is talking about now. So I'm looking forward to revisiting those and doing something with them. Franny says, I've been watching black and white World War II movies. There are a number of YouTube channels, and my favorite subgenre is submarine movies. Does that make it a subgenre? It makes, yeah, it does. Let's just say it does. It does. And Delia says, I just picked up a Blu-ray of Hundreds of Beavers. Enjoyed that at the cinema. I've got a copy of it, and I haven't watched it yet. Okay, and says, do I write long reviews on Letterboxd? No, and I'll tell you why. And it's an entirely selfish reason. And, I am a flawed character. Letterboxd don't pay me. I'm not going to write a long review on Letterboxd. They don't pay me. YouTube pays me for doing reviews. Not a lot, but I could sit down and write a long review on Letterboxd. But it'd just sit there. Or I could do one for my Patreon people and write that. And the patrons do provide me with some money. I got nothing against people who write long reviews on Letterboxd. I don't actually write reviews. I use it as a way of bookmarking what I've been watching. And, there are some good Letterboxd reviewers. I haven't got any problem with that. But it's not a delivery system that I see any benefit to me to be on. Got lots. Oh, by the way, the other thing I should mention too is if people are patrons on Patreon or channel members, I have been working on the Discord server that's for patrons and channel members. and I've sent a link, and I'm putting links to weird things I find on YouTube. I started doing that. I found a really great episode of Tales of Tomorrow on YouTube with Burgess Meredith, and I posted a link to that on the Discord. So I'm trying to give more value to people who support the channel financially and who can, and I appreciate not everyone can, by just adding these things on and saying, here's something cool I found on YouTube. Bam, here's the link. And KO says, Terry the Mercenary. I am a river to my people, but I've got to finance the river. And while I appreciate that people can't all afford it or have an inclination to, I do have to find a way to add extra for people who are able to support the channel. And the Discord server, I've got a couple of different text chat things, one of which has the links to groovy stuff I find on YouTube. By the way, if you like this live stream, give it a thumbs up as well, because it does help. Let's see how we're doing for time. We've got about 4 minutes left, so we've got Deb. I'll send you a link to the Discord. I have put it on the Patreon, but I'll send you a link to the Discord after I finish this. Kane says YouTube can be a goldmine for older films and TV episodes. It can indeed, and really interesting stuff, really wild stuff. Dealey says, have to pay for those hauls somehow. I've backed off on the hauls a little bit because I've got to pay off the credit card before I can do more hauls. And so I'm being a little more frugal at the moment. And that's fine. I'll do that until the credit card's paid off, and I'll probably buy more stuff. Now, there are a couple of things on their way which I kind of like and which I got specifically to do a video about. But I tend to do budget stuff at the moment. So I'll look around and find interesting box sets that are at the lower price point, and maybe only get one of those a month, and then just also get the stuff I get from Imprint and Umbrella. KN, it's very much more expensive to be a collector down here. Leaving aside Imprint and Umbrella, which are great, and I like what they do, and they're very generous with the channel. If I want to buy something from Severin or Vinegar Syndrome or Criterion, the exchange rates hit me hard. Plus, I've got to pay postage, which can double the price on top of the exchange rate. It's incredibly hard to get those things here unless you're cashed up. So it is a lot more expensive here. Some people will go to places like Play, which imports them themselves, and the prices of Play aren't cheap, but they're cheaper than if you bought them yourself and paid postage, because Play has economies of scale by importing a lot of stuff in bulk. They can keep the prices not low, but at a lower price than individuals buying Criterion editions themselves. So yeah, it is quite expensive here to get imports, and we just accept that. And also there are things like Disney doesn't make physical media in Australia anymore. So any movies, any Star Wars movies, any Marvel movies, any Disney movies and that just don't get a release here. Patrick says, I never understood professionals apologising for getting paid for their work. They have to eat the same as everyone else. Yeah. And just to give you some background, Patrick, thank you for that. I'm on a pension, and I do get Patreon money. I do get a little bit of AdSense money from YouTube, but they're not great amounts of money for the amount of effort I put in. But I love doing it. And being a professional, I respect myself for that. I'm part of the Australian Film Critics Association, where I pay an annual fee and I get a card and I can go and watch movies for nothing as long as I review them. There's an obligation there, and I respect that. And I love being part of a community of reviewers. I go to the Cinemaniacs sessions here in Melbourne, which I pay for. When they're doing a movie, they do a talk about the movie first. They do a raffle. They show obscure movies. They just did The Lost Boys, and they also did the first Christopher Lee Dracula movie. as a double feature. So all of that happens. Guess what, people? We really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast. Our time has passed, and we must end our show. Thank you to everybody who's watched this. Thank you to everybody who's been on chat or even just used me as background while they're having a nap. Really appreciate it. All of you, take care of yourselves. Stay cool if you need to. Stay warm if you need to. I'm going to let Deb go back to making that other beanie. Anyway, everybody, look after yourselves, and I'll catch you very soon, okay?